Shalom, 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 shalom. This morning, while I was having breakfast and I was in prayer, the little cafe that I went to, the news was on. And of course it was this is one of the big stories is obviously, once again, we see the world, the beast, and wars and rumors of wars are continually amping up, and it is causing unrest everywhere, and people are getting worried, and they should. The beast wars are serious. These beast wars are not just any kind of wars. These are the beast wars prophesied in Torah concerning these last days. And as these wars are continually getting worse, they're amping up, and we saw that one of the sides of the beast has executed some of the hostages of the other side, while the other side is continually attacking this side. And then right after that, they talked about the beast that's going on, the beast wars, major beast wars that's going on in Europe and up north, and how certain of the beasts are invading now the territory, sovereign lands and territories of another beast while they're in war. And then what we see is that it keeps the entire world out of balance. It keeps nobody really is at rest, and that's not even dealing with the all of the different wars which I mentioned to you all before. A lot of people don't know that currently there's about 80 wars being fought right now in this world. So once again, fulfilling the scriptures about the wars and the rumors of wars, and how the wars in the last days would increase, and especially right before before the end, there would be major base wars, which we see right now. And so I thought about that, and I realized I've been talking about this subject for a while, and the Most High has been continually telling me basically the same message to give to the house of Israel during this time. And that is, number one, find you a place of shalom. Now, it's obvious, y'all can see, I'm at a place of shalom. It's one of my places. Living here out on the West Coast. It's a short drive. It's a short drive for me now to get out the valley and go over the mountain, and I'm right here at a place of shalom. And as I was sitting out here meditating, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna bring Israel with me today. I'm gonna let all the house of Israel. By the way, shalom, shalom. I'm Dr. Yoshiyahu Dawi Ben Israel, and I'm more right here at the ARK. And the ARK just stands for the Awakening Remnant Coalition. And Abba Yah in the last day. Abba means father, by the way. Some people watch these videos for the first time. Abba is father, and Yah is the name of our Elohim, is Yah, and we know him in his proper name, Yah or Yahoshua. Yahuwah That's our Elohim and our King Yehoshua. So I was sitting here thinking about that as I come to a place to relax, and I said, I'm gonna bring the awakening remnant. I'm gonna bring them with me for a moment. Let y'all get a chance to see how or where I go. One of the places that I go for shalom, and it's real. To get away from all of the noise that's going on in the world, and to connect with Abaya by when I come out here. The same thing when I go in the mountains, but when I come out here and I see the vastness of the Pacific Ocean, and I see the beauty of the beaches and things like that, immediately I get a sense of shalom. So while I was here and thinking about you, I said, I'm going to make a video, bring you with me, and give you another word concerning shalom. And we've been on this for the last couple of weeks, where we first of all talked about finding your Goshen. And they're everywhere, you just got to find them. And we don't need no excuses talking about, well, I can't afford to find the Goshen. It's a Goshen everywhere. You can find it. This Goshen ain't too far from my house. But they're everywhere. Just find yours. And I talked about how Goshen is not just a physical location, but it's also spiritual. Talked about once we are in Goshen, that Goshen represents the Torah, and it is where we live and where we move and we have our being. And we talked about the fact that this is not a time to become stagnant or a time to go backwards, but that this is a time to go forward, right? So that was another thing we talked about, that we continue to advance. As we see ourselves in Goshen, we recognize the importance of continuing to advance. Today, I want to talk about something else. In the midst of everything that's going on in the world, and we talked about what do we need to survive. Not only do we need to advance, but we need courage. We need courage. Good old-fashioned, biblical courage. And while that word, courage, to be brave, to be strong, to have the ability to stand against opposition and stand against quote unquote all odds. We need courage. The house of Israel, as a seer in the house, Abaya is sharing with me to share with you that we need courage. It takes courage. It takes courage in order to carry out the covenant and to carry out Torah and to follow Yah. We cannot be afraid. And as I was thinking about the fact that we're going to need courage, I thought about all the different verses in the Bible that deal with courage. And I'm not going to mention them, obviously, because it's just I'm not going to mention them, obviously, because it's just a short video. But all through the Bible, we keep hearing this word, courage, be courageous, be courageous. And it's easy said. It's easy said, but it's not as easy done. So when we read the Bible and the Bible talks about courage and to be strong and to be brave and to be able to stand against the odds, the Bible gives us something. See, courage is not just based on a personal conviction about something. And courage, I'm talking about true biblical courage, is not just based upon a person's internal will about something. No, In order for us to have courage, talking about true biblical courage, listen, this is going to sound profound, but it's really not. In order to have courage, you must have first been encouraged. You can write it down. In order to have courage, you must be encouraged. You must be encouraged. And therefore, courage is not necessarily something that we are just automatically born with and just have. Courage is something that is given to us. We are given courage by encouragement. You see it? So it is through encouragement that we get courage. It's meditation, Monday meditation. Especially on today, so-called Labor Day. It's a day, that the world has basically set apart, and said, well, not the world, the America, the United States said, this is a time you gotta take a little time off. But I want, on this day, oh, and by the way, I already mentioned I'm Yoshiyahu of the Awakening Remnant. We are a full-time ministry. And, every time I get ready to do a video, I've been sitting in this spot for almost 2 hours. And there has been nobody here. And that's why I decided, I'm going to talk to Israel. As soon as I start talking, here come the heathens and the heathens' children making noise. Ignore it, Zion. Happens all the time. Every single time I get ready to start teaching, so we just going to ignore it. We're a full-time ministry. And, of course, we survive off of your tithe and your offerings. Those of you who believe in this ministry and are following this ministry, that's how we live. And in return, I have made a commitment to you, the house of Israel, that I would continue to study the Bible full time so that I can help the awakening remnant wake up to the truth, and then have the courage to live according to the laws, statutes, and the commandments of our holy manuscript, and of course the courage to follow our King. So, Toda Rabbah, for your support. I have to say that when I think about it, because what I really have on my mind is something that once I get started, I'll forget to say that. If the videos are helpful, like them, share them, and send a donation to the station. All right, let's get back into this lesson. In my meditation this morning about how we're going to survive, and then the word courage, I was taken to Joshua. I was taken to Joshua chapter 1. And let me do that. Joshua chapter 1. Let me get my Bible out. Let me show y'all. Joshua chapter 1. All right. I want to just read these few verses. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of Yahweh. Watch. After the death of Moses, we find out that Moses is the servant, or was the servant of Yahweh. Again, that's so important that we understand that Moses was a servant. Moses was not our Elohim. Moses was not, in the English they would say God. We never believed that Moses is a God. Moses was chosen to be a servant, and not a servant of just a random God, but the servant of Yahuwah, the one true and living Elohim. Elohim means all power. All right, now let's listen. It says, now after the death of Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, it came to pass that Yahuwah, what is that fly? Boy. It came to pass that Yahuwah, you see it? It's right there. Spoke unto Joshua. Huh? So, I don't know if you all remember that during the time of the wilderness journeys, one of the problems that Moses faced among the Israelites, among the Hebrews, among the nation of Israel, including the mixed multitude that he was bringing out of African Egypt, out of captivity, while that particular nation was being judged by Yah and destroyed. As they were leaving, and Moses began to lead the people, of course, through the wilderness and all of that, one of the issues that kept coming up was, who does Moses think he is? So among the people, they kept saying, who does Moses think he is? Moses? Man, anybody can, why? Moses, he think he all that. Moses, he thinks he's this, he's that, right? And the truth of the matter is, Moses is a servant. Moses is a servant. So one of the things they kept saying was, how come, why is it that Yahuwah has chosen to only speak to Moses? Now, first of all, their complaint is not necessarily founded in truth. Their complaint really is an exaggeration, because there was a time that Yah was gonna talk to the whole congregation. He was. He told Moses, get everybody ready, and I'm gonna talk to them. And when they saw the mountain on fire and felt the earthquake and saw all the thunders and lightnings and things like that, they are the ones who said, Moses, you go talk to him. They said, Moses, you go talk to him. We will listen. You go talk to him, tell us what he said, and then come down and then tell us. So there was a time that Yah was going to speak to the whole congregation. They were afraid to talk to Yah. I just want to show you something in the Bible, that this idea that Yah only spoke to Moses, that they kept complaining, was false. But Yah did choose Moses to speak to. That was his choice. Moses was Yah's choice as the person that he would speak to in order to talk to the people concerning the laws, the statutes, the commandments, the covenant of the Most High Yah. So here I am, I'm in a meditation today. Like I said, I see these heathens getting louder and louder. It always happens. Distraction. As Moses led the people, of course they were getting upset, saying, why is he only speaking to you? But watch. Let's fast forward. As we fast forward and open up the book of Joshua, what do we find? We find that Moses dies, that Moses is dead. And the Bible says, and Yahuwah spoke to Joshua. So no, Yahuwah is not only talking to Moses. Because as soon as Moses died, Yahuwah begins to talk to Joshua. I hope you can see that. Because this is the real reason that Yah is going to tell him to have courage. Why? He talked to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now arise, therefore arise, watch, and go over this Jordan. Yeah, go. I know Moses is not here, but I'm telling you to go. Even without Moses, Moses is dead, but you got to go over this Jordan, you and all these people. Why? Because you got to go to the land, unto the land which I do give them, even to the children of Israel. And that word really means, and truly, or especially to the children of Israel. This is their land. And you need to go over Jordan. And just understand something. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you. You see it? Who is that? It's the house of Israel. It is the assembly. It's the multitude. It's in the Bible. Watch. He says, every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that I have given unto you, as I said unto Moses, from the wilderness. What? Yes. From the wilderness and this Lebanon. So we know we know where we are. Even unto the great river, the river Euphrates. So what is he talking about? If you know your geography, you know that he is talking about the land that is from the Nile River all the way over to the great Euphrates. That's the promised land. That's the land they're fighting over right now. That's the land where they're bombing people, and that's the land that is being trampled on currently by the foot of the Gentiles. And that's the land where the wars and the bombings and the destruction and all that's going on is in our land. I was like, I could see that. So that land is not given to anyone except us. That's our land. And Zion, that's the reason why we can't go home. Because the big secret that the world does not want to say to the sons and daughters of the captivity, they don't want to tell us that the reason why we cannot go home is because our true home is the promised land. Let me get another drink of water. Our real home is the promised land. That's why this whole go back to Africa thing, right? Go back to Ghana or Sierra Leone, go back to Benin, or go back to any of these places. The reason why when our people try to go back there, they don't feel at home, it has nothing to do with the fact that our own folk don't want us there. That's not what happened. The reason is that's not our home. It's not our real home. The land of Israel, the promised land, is from Lebanon, which just represents the west of what they call the Middle East. But let's just, for now, let's stay with the Bible. From Lebanon, which is a coastal city, all the way to the Euphrates, where they're fighting. All that land is ours. Now watch. Even to the great Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your coast. Now, we should have kept the laws, but let's just continue. There shall not any man be able to stand before you all these days, all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so will I be with thee. I won't fail you, nor forsake you. You see it? So do you remember, and when I opened the video, I talked about we're going to need courage. And in order to survive, to follow these empires, we have to realize that courage comes from a source. And the source of our courage comes from encouragement. Shamori, what's the encouragement? The encouragement that Joshua got was, I'm with you. Yah said, I, Yahuwah, am with you. There's your source of courage. There's your word of encouragement. The way I was with Moses, and you walked with Moses all this time. You know Moses. You've been through the whole process with Moses. The ups and the downs. The good and the bad. The mountains and the valleys. The plenty and the little. I was with Moses. Whether there was opposition, whether Moses fought battles from within or whether he fought battles from without, I was with Moses and you saw it. Whether he had to deal with the complaining of a doornim, I was with him. Whether his own family turned their back on him at one time, I was still with him. Whether the people began lusting after Egypt, I stayed with Moses. And to be honest, even after Moses was so frustrated with the people that he struck the rock instead of speaking to the rock the second time, I never left Moses. I stayed with Moses. And Moses stayed with me until he died. And even in his death, you see that Abba Yah had his hand on Moses. So the encouragement to Joshua was, just like that, I'm going to be with you. Just like that, I'm going to be a wall of protection around you. Just like that, I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to talk with you. I'm going to give you insight. I'm going to order your steps. When you are lonely, I'm going to be your friend. When you are lost, I'm going to be your compass. When you are, if you get depressed, I'm going to come and give you a word of encouragement. If you start having doubts, I'm going to remove all your doubts. Why? Because just like Moses, I was with Moses, I'm going to be with you. It's my meditation. Watch. Because this is what Yah is trying to tell us. He says, I'm not going to fail you, and I'm not going to forsake you. Two things. He says, I will never fail. You can forget that. I don't fail. Yahuwah, Zion, he don't fail. That's not his thing. He always wins. He always succeeds. He does not fail. And he's not going to fail you. That's what he's telling Joshua. Moses is dead. And I'm going to be with you. Just like I was with Moses, I'm going to be with you. I'm never, ever going to fail you. Not only am I not going to fail you, I'm never going to forsake you. There will never be a time, Joshua, that you're going to go through this process of the assignment that I'm giving you as a leader of the house of Israel. There'll never be a time where I'm going to forsake you. I'm never, ever going to forsake you. You're not going to be forsaken. I'm going to be right there the whole time. Even when it seems like I may have forsaken you, I have not. Do you understand that? Joshua, do you understand that? House of Israel, waking up to the truth in these last days. To the remnant, do you understand that? There is no failure in Yahuwah, number one. And there is no forsaking us in Yahuwah. That's number two. So if there is no failure and there is no forsaking, then if there's no failure in Yah toward us, and if there's no forsaking of us by Yah, then there's no reason for us not to be courageous. You can be courageous. Why? Because Yah said, I won't fail you and I'm not going to forsake you. And even though people forsake you, men forsake you, women forsake you, husbands forsake you, wives forsake you, mother might forsake you, father might forsake you, but Yah said, I'll never forsake you. I'll never fail you, number one. I'll never forsake you, number two. Understand that. It's my meditation for the house of Israel. The Elohim you serve has made a commitment to you to not fail and not forsake. All right, I got a few more minutes. Let me share. Watch the text. He says, be strong. And then he says, and of good courage. Pause. Two things. Number one, be strong. Number two, be of good courage. Yah put his word first and his commitment to Joshua first and his promise to be with Joshua. He put that out first. And then after he speaks to Joshua and puts his commitment and what he promises to do, then he gives Joshua. He gives Joshua the commandment to, number one, be strong, and number two, be of good courage. All right, so let me try to deal with those two real quick. Most of you all know I was fortunate, very, very blessed by Abaya to have a dad, a real father. It was 8 children, 8 of us, and my dad worked full time, had a job, and then he did a lot of work on the outside. And my father did his best to raise us, especially the boys. He did his best to raise us to be men. And the way he was raising us to be men was being a man himself. So one of the reasons that my brothers and I, one of the reasons that we that we're kind of we like a different kind of breed of people, we're sort of a courageous people, is because we had a father who was courageous. So it never mattered whatever situation we were in, because our dad was such a courageous person would say, he said he got that from his father, who also was in the house his whole life. There are certain things that I learned about courage. It starts when you're young. So the first time I have, I got memories of my dad doing certain things. I remember when I was a little kid, my father used to take us fishing, and in those days, the places where he used to take us, they were like out in the country, like way out in the country, and we would be walking, and he would just say, "Stay close to me." I remember one time we were walking, and my dad just didn't do nothing. He just stopped and put his hand out and put it on my chest, just like that. And I said, "What's?" And it was a rattlesnake right in front of him. My dad didn't holler, didn't scream, take off running, nothing. He just stopped. He put his hand on my chest, made me stop. And we stood there for a minute, and the snake slithered the wall, and then he kept walking. Come on, boy, let's go. Father ain't got no fear of no snakes. And I asked him later on, I was a little kid, I said, "That snake didn't scare you?" And he said, "No, the snake is more afraid of me than I am of it. And it don't want to bite me, and I don't want to kill it. So I just waited and let him know I'm not going to kill you." And the snake slithered off, and we kept going. So what does that do for a son? Watching my dad do that, and do it all the time. Like, this ain't no one-time thing, right? Okay, that was one. So you learn that, like, oh, as long as my dad is with me, I ain't got to worry about no snakes. I remember one time my father, we were working, I was a young boy, probably 10, 12 years old. And we were up on the roof doing some work or whatever. And it's a big, Daddy built us a big house. And the ladder was on one side of the house. And we were working on the house. We were way on the other side of the house. And so he went down to go get something or whatever. And then he came around and he said, "All right, hey man, we're getting ready to grab some food," or whatever it was we're getting ready to do. And I said, "All right." So I got ready to walk over to the other ladder. And he said, "Just jump." I know y'all like, man, come on. But my family, if they watch these videos, they know I ain't lying. He said, "Jump." Now, there's a couple things about my dad. One, he was telling me to jump. He meant it. But number two, you don't disobey my father. So if he tell you jump, you jump. But at the same time, I'm a child. And he's telling me to jump off of a roof. And then, you know what he said? Simple. He said, "Jump. I got you." So you know what I did? Man, I jumped. I jumped off the roof, knowing that that's my father. Now, I'm not mad at mama, but mama wasn't gonna tell me to jump off of no roof and that she was gonna catch me. That's not a mama-son thing. That's a dad-father thing. Jump. And I jumped and he caught me, of course. And then he basically was just letting me know, like, if I tell you to do something, just do it. I got you. There's so many times in life, and I'm just using those two illustrations, but I could use so many more, that the reason I developed courage as an individual was not because I was born courageous, but because I was taught to be courageous by a courageous person. And as a result of him being courageous, when he gives me certain instructions to do, I already knew that he was good. That him being there, I'm good. So if he said, "Hey, go do such and such, and I'll be there at such and such a time," I was good. Pop's gonna be here. If it didn't matter what it was, I could be courageous. I'm gonna use one more thing about my dad, because I'm just trying to show you something about the script, and then I'm gonna get out the room. Watch. True story. I never feared getting in trouble, getting in fights my whole life. Of course, my father taught us how to fight, like for real fight and wrestle, right? Uh, Told us never to do it unless it was necessary, but he still taught us how to do it. But I never had fear of nobody. I still don't. Because everybody in my town knew that they don't want to deal with my dad. So a lot of times, me looking back on my life, I think a lot of time that a lot of trouble that did come my way was thwarted, or people just said forget it, was because there was the presence of my father. They always knew if he was there or not. If I mess with him, oh my goodness. I think what it was, I think they said if I mess with him, I'm gonna have to mess with his dad. If I deal with this boy right here, I'm gonna have to deal with his father, and I'd rather not deal with his dad, so they don't mess with me. And to be honest with you, until I was grown, people knew me by being Morris' son. It's just true. Always one call away. All right, let me give you one more. This is a meditation about courage. When I got ready to start off on life and went off to college and was getting ready to, start a life and all that, left home, my father said, because I told you, my dad had money, but he worked. He wasn't a millionaire or nothing like that, but he had what they call a middle class life. I hate that word class, but we had our own home. We owned land and all that, right? So my father said, son, listen to me. What's that? He said, I don't care what happens in your life. It doesn't matter. Whatever comes up in your life, if you ever come to a point where you are about to be homeless, you're gonna be out in the street somewhere, and you ain't got nowhere. You listen. You always have a place at home. So whatever you want to do in life, go on and do it. Just know, don't matter if it don't work out and something happen and you end up, can't make it. You always know. Just know this, that you have a place here. Even if you have to live here, I'll build you a house in the back. You can build a house in the back of the property, and you can live here if you need to. So when you are given those kind of words from a man who has already demonstrated his courage in life, and then is telling you, look, whatever you do, man, look, I'm here to help. I'm behind you. But not only that, you really can't fail because I'm here. As long as I'm alive, you got a place to live. You got a place to stay. Then that allows us to then try some things that we probably wouldn't try, or take the chances of certain things that other people may not want to take those chances, or endeavor to do certain things that maybe other people would not endeavor, because they would be afraid that if I don't do such and such, then I'm not going to have nothing. But the fact that my father, earthly dad, said, don't ever worry about that, son, then it automatically does what? It gives you certain courage. And that is a man talking to his son. How much more should we be courageous when it's Yah talking to us? And Yah is saying to us, I was with Moses, right? I'm gonna be with you. All the way until I call you home. You good? So One, be strong. Why? Because I've given you that which is needed for the strength. Number two, he says, and be courageous. Be of good courage. Why? Because of the words and the actions that I've already demonstrated in your life. You can now see that the things I'm telling you to do are possible. They're possible. And therefore, you never have to fear any results of anything as long as you have that kind of encouragement behind you. All right. I got about 4 or 5 minutes. So I want to say a couple of more things. Some of us, unfortunately, because we did not have a father in the home, we grew up in just the opposite. We grew up fearful about everything. Everything is fearful to us. Why? Because dad's not home. And mamas, listen to me, I ain't mad at y'all, but a mother's not a dad. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because I had a mother and a father. They're two different people. And they occupy two different roles in the lives of children. And while moms have to do the best they can, and I'm not mad at no mama doing the best she can, there is going to be fear. I've talked to too many people who told me, they said, every night I went to bed without my dad, I was afraid. We had to learn drills. Like if something happened, you do this. Man, I never did that, man. I went to bed every night. I never thought about nothing. Why? Because Morris Davis is sleeping right across the hall. Ain't nobody coming in my dad's house. So I never went to sleep one day in fear as a child, versus a whole generation of people growing up without a father, and they don't want to admit it, but I'll admit it for them. They have a fear of everything. There's a fear of what people are going to think about them. They have a fear of how people are going to judge them. They have a fear about what people say behind their back. They have a fear of failure. They have a fear of failure. They have a fear of trying certain things. They have fears and fears and fears. They don't know. They have a fear about tomorrow. They have a fear about whether they could do this and a fear about if they could do that. And unfortunately, this fear then begins to show its head later in life. That because this child had so many fears growing up, then when it comes to Yah, they also bring these fears into their relationship with Yah. And that's unfortunate. Because why should we be afraid to obey Yah? Fear is what keeps most people, number one, watch. Some of our people are afraid. That's why they won't leave the Christian church. They don't know, even though we've told them a million times that organization is satanic. It's not that they don't know it, they have a fear. And we tell people to reject these pagans and the pagan days and all that. But they can't. Why? Fear. We tell people, stop eating this garbage and eat according to the Torah so that you can live a strong and healthy life, physically speaking, right? And spiritually. But they won't. Why? Fear. Afraid to keep the covenant. I'll even bring in one when people say you should support with tithes and offerings. You got to give. We have special days. We give during our feast days. We give tithes and offerings on a regular basis. And that's 1/10 of our increase. Whatever Yah increases us, we give it 10%. Most people, if it's just not pure selfishness, because in some cases, people are just selfish. But in other cases, people say, I want to do this, but I'm afraid. So it even gets to the point where we are afraid to even give to support ministry. Think about that. Because you haven't spent enough time with Yah, or you were not encouraged by a father or someone like that. You weren't encouraged that when you are obedient, he's not going to fail you nor forsake you because you're doing something that he told you to do. He's telling you to do these things because he wants to bless you. He's not telling you to do certain things because he's trying to make you fail. He's trying to help you succeed. Again, I have probably 1,000 illustrations I could bring out about my father doing certain things like that. Putting me through certain tests that I didn't know if I was going to succeed or fail, but he would put me through certain tests just to see if I would do it, so that he would bless me. I've given those illustrations before. One of the reasons that tithes and offerings wasn't hard for me growing up, was not hard for me because I didn't start that until I was 18 years old. So I've been doing it for 50 years now. No, I've been doing it for 40 years, tithing now. But before tithing, my money that I would get, I would have to give half of it to my dad. Half. And I didn't know until I was grown that he was rich or wealthy. When I got my check, I don't care if it was $200, he said, give me $100. And I had to give him $100 on my $200 check. And then he said, now give your mama something. So again, a tenth to Yah was nothing for me because I didn't have no fear of that, because I was taught by my dad that when you get paid, it ain't all yours. So I'm not afraid to give Yah 10% of my income. What's that all about? I'm not because I knew based on my father that my father didn't need my money. He was saving up my money so that he could put my money with his money and get me what I needed. Whether it was a bicycle, whether it was school clothes or whatever, my father was just teaching me something about money. He wasn't trying. So again, even when it comes to economics, a lot of us, the reason why we don't give is because, or tithe, is because of fear. Now, some people, you don't have that fear. There's many people who follow the ARK now starting to understand that. They're like, oh, I don't have that fear no more. I did it in the beginning, but after I started giving my 10th to the work of the ministry, to the kingdom, and some people say I started giving that 10% to Yosh and the ARK, the Awakening Remnant Coalition. I haven't lacked anything. As a matter of fact, I've been blessed by that, right? Why? So it took you doing it, and then eventually you were like, oh, okay, I see what this is about. This is something bigger than me. Yah is doing something. So you're no longer fearful when it comes to paying tithes and offerings. Watch this. I should just use the word tenth, because we don't even know what the word tithe is, but should just use the word tenth. When I was really, really broke, I used to tell everybody, it's okay. I said, what? You ain't afraid? I mean, yeah, I get nervous every now and then, but I'm not afraid. I'm not scared to give. Why? Because I had a father who already taught me that lesson when I was young. And so now that my father has transitioned, Abba Yah, my father now, I trust him. Okay. About 3 minutes and I'm out. Okay, so now watch. Watch this. In the last days, we must, now that we are turning to Torah, we cannot be afraid of keeping Torah, even if it means that everybody around us is not keeping Torah. Even if it means we're going to be talked about, laughed at. There's a verse in the Bible where Peter, uses a very strange word. He tells the women, he says, about calling their husband Lord. Y'all know that verse. The only reason why I'm bringing that up is just because he uses the word fear. He says, the reason why you ought to do that is because you are Sarah's daughter. That's what he says. He says, you are Sarah's daughter. Abraham's wife, obviously. You're Sarah's grandchild. And this is what Sarah did. So if Sarah was not afraid, and you are her she's an example. In other words, she's your encouragement. You can look at her life and be encouraged that she became what? She became the mother of nations because she was not afraid. And he said, and you shouldn't be afraid either. Right? And I could go on with the disciples. Timothy is told by Paul, don't be afraid. Why? Because you saw how Yah worked with me, he's going to work with you. So courage comes from encouragement. Last word. Watch this. Our King, as he was leaving after the resurrection, he told his disciples in Matthew 28, he said, go into all the world. Matter of fact, let me get that verse. Matthew chapter 28. And toward the end of that, he says, let me get it. I'm actually read that one as we exit. It says in 28:17, and when they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. And Yahushua came and spake unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and earth. There goes your encouragement. Watch. Go you therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Ruach HaKodesh. Again, that is not a trinity. That is a statement of the one Yahuwah Elohim. It's not my lesson tonight. Just understand that. Watch. Teaching them to observe all things whatsoever, there's the word, I have commanded. So all of the Torah are the commandments of Yahushua, which is the commandments of Yah, because Yahushua is the visible image of the invisible Yah. And then here's your word of encouragement. And lo, I am with you always. Now that's one thing that my dad couldn't say. Why? Because none of us can actually say I'm with you always. He said, as long as I'm here, son. As long as I'm alive. But of course, once my father transitioned, he's no longer with me. Right? But what? But Yahushua said, but I'm with you always. I gotta go. Why? Because even though he died, death didn't kill him. And even though he was buried, the grave didn't hold him. This is the resurrected. He's resurrected. And he's telling you, listen, I'm never going to leave you. I'm with you always. Always, even to the end of the world. Amen. So look, we're at the end of the world now. And my word of meditation to you, I told you number 1, Goshen. 2, continue to move forward in Goshen. Advance. And number 3, have the courage that was given to you by his words of encouragement. And his promise to you. What? That he'll never fail you. And he'll never forsake you. And with those 2 promises, we then have been given the encouragement to be courageous. So be courageous, y'all. Keep the laws, statutes, and the commandments. Walk according to Torah and walk according to our covenant. And keep looking up, for our redemption draws nigh. How are we going to survive these last and evil days? Courage. Shalom.